And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, we are going to be looking at the games that happened yesterday, and we are also going to be looking at the games that are going to be happening today and running some predictions on these games. Now, it's going to be a little bit quick just because I do have to get to class a little bit earlier, so I don't want to be late for that. Now, the Knicks, they're going up against they went up against the Magic. They ended up winning, and they ended up securing a good spot in the in-season tournament, and they won 121-106. This was a great game coming in from Karl Anthony Towns, who ended with 23 and 15. Josh Hart ended with 11, 13, and 10. And Jalen Brunson ended with 21. And on the Magic side, Franz Wagner had 30 points, but it wasn't enough. Regardless, though, they both ended up clinching, so it's totally fine. It's really not that big of a deal. Then the Mavericks, they ended up beating the Memphis Grizzlies. I expected them to win. They won 121-116. It was a very good duel between Ja Morant and the Dallas Mavericks with Luka Doncic. Ja ended with 31 points. Meanwhile, Luka ended with 37 and 12 rebounds, along with 4 steals, which is rather impressive. Klay Thompson ended with 4 points, so 3 for 14 from the field. I think it's safe to say now that Klay Thompson is washed. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's absolutely washed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. As I mentioned before, the Warriors, they ended up losing to the Denver Nuggets because Jokic is the best player in the NBA and is most likely going to win another MVP. 38 points, 5 steals, 6 assists, and 10 rebounds. I mean, what can't he do? And let's see. For the Warriors side, as I said, Steph Curry had 24 and 11, but it just wasn't enough to go up against Jokic. Now, the Sixers, they ended up surprising me, and they ended up beating the Charlotte Hornets. Brandon Miller ended with 34 points. Nick Richards ended with 22 points and 14 rebounds. No LaMelo Ball in this game, which was probably the reason why they ended up losing. But Paul George, he had 29 points in this game, the first good game that I've seen coming in from Paul George in a 76ers uniform. No Joel Embiid, of course, because does Joel Embiid want to play basketball? I don't know. Tyrese Maxey ended with 21 points, 7 assists, and seems like Jared McCain, he's slowed down just a little bit, 17 points, but again, not that bad. Definitely not that bad. Definitely still a front runner for Rookie of the Year, at least as of right now. Now, the Bucks, they ended up destroying the Pistons. I finally picked the Bucks to win, and they ended up winning. They won 128-107. Giannis and Damian Lillard had a phenomenal game. Giannis had 28, 8, and 7. Dame had 27, 5, and 4. And Cade Cunningham had 23 points in this game and still ended up losing. What else is new? The Cavs, they ended up beating the Wizards because, of course, they did. The Wizards are an awful team. They're 2-17. They might end up being worse than the Pistons were last year, which is not really saying much because Washington was just as bad as they were last year. Evan Mobley ended with 19 points and 10 rebounds. Donovan Mitchell ended with 19 points as well. And Garland ended with 12 points. But really, you don't really need a lot of scoring when you're going up against the Wizards because, Jordan Poole is not that guy. Alexander Czar is absolutely horrible as a number 2 pick in the NBA draft. He was only picked up for his defense, and that is very sad. But that's besides the point. But now Jordan Poole, he ended the game with 13 points, 4 for 11 from the field. We all know he's like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of player. We have no idea whether we're going to get a good Jordan Poole game or a bad one. And then the Raptors, they ended up surprising me. They ended up beating the Pacers. Halliburton, he actually had a really good game, 30 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds. He did all that on just 16 shots, but that still wasn't enough for the Raptors. The Pacers, they have shockingly one of the worst defenses in the entire league, and it really shows. Scotty Barnes completely destroyed it, especially for fantasy players. 35 points, 6 rebounds, and 9 assists. Just one of the greatest fantasy picks ever, one of the most underrated fantasy picks ever. RJ Barrett also played a really good game, 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists as well. The Thunder, they ended up beating the Jazz because, of course, they did. The Jazz are also one of the worst teams in the NBA. SGA had 26, Jalen Williams had 28, And the Jazz, no one really had anything more than 17 points. So, yeah, just bad game coming in from the Jazz. The Suns, they ended up beating the Spurs. I had a feeling that the Suns would end up winning. Devin Booker was the main reason why they ended up winning, 29 points and 9 rebounds. And I believe with this game, Devin Booker moved up to 15,000 points in the NBA, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I do remember seeing Kevin Durant make a tweet around how it might be a little bit more than 15,000, but again, I think it's 15,000 points. Well, that was the milestone that he reached in this game. And Kevin Durant, he did not really play well in this one, in my opinion. 13 points. He did only play 16 minutes, however. So I don't know, maybe he got hurt. I was unable to watch this game, so I can't really say anything about that. And the Rockets, they ended up disappointing me. They ended up losing to the Kings. The Kings won 120 to 111. And let's see, De'Aaron Fox had 22 points. Malik Monk had 17 and 12. And Sabonis had 27, 7, and 4. And on the Rockets side, Jalen Green had 28. And Alperen Sengun had 24, but they still ended up losing. And that's a little bit unfortunate. Those were, of course, I actually got 3 wrong today, but there were a lot of games, so. But then the Clippers, they ended up winning. It seems like prime James Harden is making somewhat of a return. I don't know what it is, but he ended with 23 points and 7 assists. And Norman Powell, he ended with 30 points. He's been an absolute shocker for a lot of players, for a lot of people in this season. And of course, with the Blazers, there was no one that was able to get 20 points. So, not a very good game coming in from them. That's it for the recap, and now we're going into the predictions. The Nets are going up against the Pacers. I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to pick the Nets in this one. I do not trust the Pacers' defense. And actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, the Pacers are probably going to win now just because I said that. Lakers are going up against the Heat. I'm going to pick the Lakers in this matchup. Regardless of LeBron's shooting woes, I really hope that this is the game where LeBron turns back the clock and plays even better in this game against the Heat. Pistons going up against the Celtics. Celtics, that's an easy pick. Magic going up against the 76ers. I'm going to pick the Magic in this one. And let's see, next game. Bucks going up against the Hawks. I am actually going to... forget it. We'll pick the Bucks in this one. I'm still not very confident with them, but so far they've been winning, so I'm going to stick with the Bucks in this one. And I really don't think that the Hawks have any answer for Giannis. But next, the Clippers, they're going to match up against the Timberwolves. I'm going to pick the Clippers in this one. I just do not trust the Timberwolves nearly as much as I trust the Clippers, which is really saying a lot because it's like the Clippers, not a really big fan of them, but again, they've been playing some really good basketball lately. So that's all that I have to say. That's it for the show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us. So remember to subscribe and leave a positive review. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. As usual, we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether it's a hot take, whether it's a burning question, or whether it's just something that you're dying to share. We are all ears. If you really want your comment and or question to get noticed, then I recommend you use Super Chat. You just click on the $sign below the chat box, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way. Or you can use the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment, gsmcpodcast.net. And Super Chat or using the link, really either or doesn't matter at all. And that's really all that I have to say on this podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care. Ooh, one more thing. And stay warm because it is getting cold outside.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.